Okay. Today I am going to talk about web design, web application design, and web-specific design issues, and relation to human-computer interaction. It's an interesting topic because a lot of the significant portion of the applications are now being developed as a web application. Even if you have mobile applications and even if you have a specific company enterprise applications, they are still being developed as web applications because software distribution is quite easy. Actually not necessary when you have web interfaces and web-based applications. So most of the application runs on the server side. In some cases, some part of the application runs on the client side, but generally it runs within the browser. However, it has specific design issues and specific discussions about web. Some of them are web applications, some of them are websites. So I will start with developing a website and continue with the web application. So this is one traditional example I have been given. This was an online course upload, document upload screen, and in the document upload screen, after the upload, this is what I got, and there is a red message there after I try to upload a PDF file, and it says some message about the size of the document, and it also gives me a dialog box. What I immediately recognize it as a failure rather than success. So I don't read this because it is red. Since it is red, I believe that it is something incorrect. So I recognize it, I consider it as an error and try to upload the same file again. Why that happens is generally when people are looking at the web pages, they don't look web pages completely as developer looks. It's partly understood. No, that's normal and acceptable. Therefore, the failure in this website is first, these two things are separate. So the message below should be given as a separate message. Do you want, with a dialog or saying that, do you want to upload another document? Here they are kind of good guys and allow people to upload one document and another document, another document, another document. So they try to save a window, but it is quite difficult to understand this. And also the message is not green, but it is red. And there is also something like olmalıdır here. You have to make the file size smaller than 5 megabytes. So that is understood as an error, and the person tries to upload the same file again and again because it's very difficult to understand what it says. The good things are considered as of having a high quality. So when you visit a good web page, depending on the goodness. You perceive some kind of quality. If the quality of the web page is relatively stable and nice, then the quality of the brand is improved. Hold on a second. Efendim. Teşekkür ederim. Şu an dersteyim ama acil mi? Mailim bir buçukta ararsanız dersim bitiyor. Hı hı. İyi günler. Sağ olun. Bye bye. So, when the web page is too too good, but the brand is not very well known, like this, quality perception is not improved. So, quality of the web page and quality of the brand are highly related, actually. A Turkish proverb saying that dost başa düşman ayağa bakar. So it has to be proportional with the quality of the web page. So good web pages, functional, not error-giving web pages, are usually associated with high-quality brands. That doesn't mean that your web page must be flashy, very expensive graphics, fancy things, transitions, and animations. So that doesn't mean that it should be loaded with a lot of unnecessary elements. It's quite similar to having a shop which is very fancy. Then it is related with the low quality again. It will look like a nightclub rather than a regular business enterprise. So the level of complexity and level of expensive looking must be tuned so that the content of the web page and content of the business is reflected in the web page. Therefore, a web page for wholesale timber or wholesale paper would be different from the web page for a e-commerce website or a web page for an furniture company. So they are quite different. And how do we improve the quality? Generally, human brain likes symmetry. So based on the Gestalt principles that we have learned, there are certain things that are associated with high quality. One of them is the color. Based on your education and educational past, some colors are associated with high quality, such as blue, brown, metal finish, etc. Things like pink, light green, light yellow, those are not associated with high quality, depending on the tone, of course, and depending on your experiences in your culture. Those are associated with lower qualities. Lines, parallel lines, symmetry, smooth surfaces. They're all nice looking fonts, usually solid, are associated with higher quality. Alignment, moving in the alignment in different places. Adjustments, spaces, stability in spaces, stability in fonts. I mean, using the same font in many places. Not having headings slightly moved to the left or right. So having everything stable and working, not giving error messages, no dirt. Those are associated with high qualities. So when we summarize the quality perception, because that's our goal in many times when we develop a web page, the brand, system complexity, the friends, what your friends say about the web page, the payment. If you pay for a service, it looks like more professional and more high quality. So if you are subscribed to a service, for example, if you are a subscribed user of YouTube, YouTube seems more high quality to you than the free service. So any free service is perceived with its flaws more. When you pay, you tend to like it. And if you pay more, you tend to like it more. Professional look and feel is interesting fact. So some cultures, including ours, I think, complex looking interfaces are perceived as of higher quality. And it also depends on the education level of the user. If the education level of the user is high, so he or she expects more complex interfaces to feel the same high quality perception. So if you are not educated, you may well think that it's a high quality web page and product, then you can continue using it. So if you are if your education level is high, you also don't pay attention to bells and whistles and animations. So if you are an educated person, you don't like animations in the web pages because you are going to do your business with the site. You don't want to play with the site. So it's basically the applications that goes into the website. There are some similarities and differences. And as we said at the beginning, many software is now web-based. And there are advantages of web-based applications like software distribution and update and controlling everything in a central database, etc. But there are differences significant enough that specific web design guidelines should be followed. Basically, it's an open platform. Many clients can access, and clients are not well controlled. In a regular application, there is an operating system and there is a standard operating system interface. So your application runs on that operating system generally, and the boundaries of the application, physical and logical boundaries of the application, working boundaries of the application are well defined. But in the web pages, those boundaries are not well defined. Therefore, it's a quite elastic environment. in terms of the technological structure and in terms of the population too. Therefore, initial planning and design of navigation is much more important because you don't know what's going to happen to whom. So planning, design of the navigation, and lastly, design of site and page content is important and different in the web page design and web-based application design. The famous Jesse James Garrett, in his book, mentions about 9 pillars of the web development in general. On the left, there are strategic elements. On the right, there are tactical elements on the field. So the right part is more related to the project management. On the left part is more related with the research and planning. In the left part, you start with the user research. So you start with the user research. A lot of the part is the user research, and that relates to the site strategy, what I'm going to do with the site, why am I doing it, and how users are going to use it. So what is my business strategy and site strategy? Then that's complemented with technology strategy and the content strategy together. So as a three of them, you continue to have the abstract design. And through abstract design, then you do shift to implementation and content production together, because making web page technologically doesn't mean that it's complete. You also need the content, because the content will be consumed. Then both technology and the content production allows you to end up with the concrete design, and that concrete design is then finishes up the web page, and that will be covered from the beginning to the end using the project management part, which is this part. So there is a three-dimensional version of this. Let me switch to that. In the project life cycle, starting from the early phases to the end. Hold on a second. So as the project moves, project management layer is here, site production layer is here, and user research layer is here. So this is the work breakdown through the project life cycle. So basically, at the beginning, user research and strategy development takes a lot of effort. You have to spend some time on it. Basically, don't start developing the web page immediately, because planning is more important in web design planning. So when doing something web-based, early information collection from the stakeholders is quite essential. And you need to keep getting the information from the stakeholders, from the users and owners of the site. You need to make a continuous revision, which is today we know it as agile process. Part of the agile process requires continuous revision and information sharing between the stakeholders. When you do revisions in the late revisions affect the production of the site because you need to change a lot of parts, or you give up from changing it because you tend to you have to use incorrectly designed web page because it will be very expensive and costly to change it. So revisions that are done early in the beginning of the web page design is more doable because there is no developed code that much, so you can change it and scrap it if necessary. And therefore, a controlled revision is a must, and early information collection is essential. I repeat that early information collection is essential. So at the beginning, we have to realize that there are web pages that are designed by groups of people to meet the needs of other groups of people. So people who design web pages usually applications usually don't use it. There are developers designing applications for the banks, designing applications for the students, designing applications for the faculty in the student registration system who never use, never give, never fill a grade sheet. I have like 60 students in the class. They never think, they never entered 60 grades using the web page. So typical problem with the student registration web pages, the login timeout in any page. For a security measure, the login timeout is set like 3 minutes. After 3 minutes of inactivity or 5 minutes of inactivity, they say the session is timed out. You have to log in again. That is usually done in many interactive applications, but when you are trying to enter 200 students' grades one by one, and that takes more than 5 minutes. So at the end of the list, it happened to me several times. I clicked submit, and after I click submit, the web page told me your session is expired. So all 200 grades are lost. Because, as I said, it is developed by a person who never entered grades manually one by one. So if it is not going to enter manually one by one, if there are other methods like uploading it from the Excel file, then fine. But then why do you have the other way? Why do you have the manual entering facility if it doesn't work? Therefore, it's interesting debate. And in most cases, web projects and websites are often taught as a technology problem. They say, and also you say in your projects, I am going to use Flutter, I am going to use this framework, I am going to use that framework. I don't care what framework you will use because it's not a technology issue. What is important is what you are going to do. I don't care how you do it. What you do it is more important. So web projects are therefore, unfortunately, approached as a technology problem. So if you generally, people generally think that if they use latest technology to develop the website, then it will be fine. However, it's not the technology or framework, it is what you do. Even pure HTML will function very well if you do it correctly. So projects projects can get colored from the beginning by enthusiasms, such as people like it very much. People are very happy and they like fancy things. Anything that is different from real needs is welcomed. However, actual content and needs are not well taught. An artificial intelligence, an artificial intelligence chatbot might be very interesting for an e-commerce site. However, it is not the most important thing to plan. So, therefore, at the end, people who will visit and use the site will determine the success. If there are nobody, if there is no customer, it doesn't mean that it will be a good site. So goodness will be determined by the customers, by the visitors. And ironically, the book says, though users are the people that are least likely to be present and involved when the site is designed and built. So we don't get enough information from them when doing the when developing the application. Site development team, therefore, should always function as an active, committed advocate for the users and their needs. So contact with the users through the development is essential, especially with the web page applications, web applications and web page design. And it's not an easy task. If we only listen to management directives and keep the process sealed tightly within the development teams, if the development team is very happy with their tea and coffee, let me drink my tea, and dictate to supposed users what the team imagines is best for them, such as the student registration system timing out in 5 minutes when entering grades, be prepared for failure because people are going to use your application, not the developers. So how are we going to move then? Each member in the team contributes from this different perspective. That is one important fact. And some team members are not experienced in site design. So this debate happens in university a lot. They say, our site is old. Our site must be changed. Our site is not good. We have to make a new website. So this voice is raised every time when the management changes in the university. And we ask, I used to be CIO, you know, we ask, then what do you want? They can't give a clear answer, but what they do is they reference to other sites, such as this university has a very good web page. I liked it very much. We go there and look. It's not good. There are flaws. Navigation requires a lot of effort. It takes heavy load on the client. There are videos playing. Screen is not well used, but people like it. So it is not easy task to make decisions about the web pages because there are too many variations. However, group discussions are good. That's what we are doing in the university to come up with a certain design because we cannot make everything that we want. There are constraints, there are technical constraints, budget constraints, time constraints, development constraints. It's an engineering problem. It's not an art where you can master your skill and make the best. So user needs are considered, there are comparisons, and usually in the group meetings, consensus is looked for. Many web pages lack enough content. In the web page development, the least time spent is the part of projects usually creating the content itself. When people are developing a web page for the university, for example, explanations of the laboratories, giving information about the classes, giving information about the professors, giving information about the life in the campus is not easy because you need to prepare the content. Not only the pictures, but also the text or video. Therefore, content creation is very, very significant, which are usually omitted because it is done by other people who are connected to the development team. And usually the number of those people are less, such as when you have 3 developers for the web page, there is one person to generate content, and that person is part-time, and that part-time work is performed by writing other people to prepare information to put to the web page. So they are all prepared by different people, different wording, different Turkish or English, different types of talking style, and assembled, edited, and put on the web page. So it's a very difficult task. Therefore, before writing the code and doing the content, what and why questions must be answered, meaning that why are we having the web page for the university? And what are we going to do with the web page? Who is going to do what with the web page? So if those questions are answered, we can customize the interface based on the requirements, and that's what we are doing in the university. Actually, our university web page is about approaching to 10 years old. So it's quite stable so far. I wouldn't say old. It's quite stable, although there are some problems with the fluid design because of the additions and technical limitations. It generally works okay for the needs because we we put the needs of the users ahead of the design. We don't pay attention and we don't play with the design too much. We more focus on the content. Generally, small content is good, much better than the big site with broken links. So broken link thing is killer. It kills the experience. Therefore, you should not have any broken links not functioning incorrectly going. Those must be eliminated. There are general guidelines that we have seen in the past lectures. Those general guidelines must be followed. So exceptional designs should be avoided, such as rotational menus, for example, as much as possible. Unless there is a reason, exceptional designs should be avoided. Creativity in the web page must be in the content. We are not designing a picture. We are not doing a painting. It is the application that we should focus. So creativity of the web designer must be in the content, not in the animations, in the colors and locations and designs and interactivity. That creativity is not the creativity because people don't want it. Titles and headings and contents should match. Unlike the clickbait of the newspapers, they put a clickbait title to the videos like dollar is going up, and you listen to it, there is nothing related to the dollar, maybe a few words at the end. So it is important to have headings and titles and the contents matching each other so that people will read it. It's not only one time. They come again, they come again, and they come again. So unlike the shepherd, unlike the liar shepherd of the village, you shouldn't lie and trick users into the content because they don't come again. You can only trick them once or twice, not many times. So visual design and animations, if you do it, should be done at the very end, not at the beginning. So those are not important. Format should come after function. So early visual design stalls the project and prevents being rational about the project. Also, sometimes the content is taken from written documents. There is a catalog, for example, printed catalog. Printed catalog is transferred to the web page. However, the reading behavior and content assimilation behavior of the people on the web is different than on the paper. Therefore, when you have a content in the paper from the company, like catalogs or introduction to the company or introduction to the university, what the rector does, what the department thinks, etc., when it is founded, blah, blah, blah, blah. Those content must be rewritten for the web. And when you are rewriting the content, when you are rewriting the content, basically you divide the content into multiple pieces, so multiple paragraphs, each with the headings, explanations, titles, so that it is consumed one by one, part by part, not as a whole long text. That is a general idea. And try to make it shorter on the web because viewing is more done through scanning. Iterative design, agile iterative design is good, but while it is good to have iteration, too many iterations might be expensive. So planning and then iteration must be sought. Full put the iterations as early as possible and follow universal usability guidelines. Any questions? Okay. So when we when we are communicating person to person using the active voice, in the language is good. So best communication is between the person and the other person. So each side knows each other, such as, for example, Hüseyin, Baran, Serdil, Şeyma, Enis, Mehmet, Berkcan, Doğukan, Sedef, etc. So we are talking to each other. You are listening to me, and actually I am not seeing you. Therefore, communication is little impaired because your cameras are off. It's not the best communication like in the class, because in the class I see your faces, and if you don't look at me in the class, then I realize that I have to say something else in order to make you awake. But on online education, since I cannot see you, it will be harder for me to keep you awake and get feedback from you. So it's not the best communication because I am not getting feedback from you. I think it's clear. Therefore, um, therefore, the interface must talk to user. How? In a dialog box, like name here, okay? What do you write here? You write there in the application. Please enter your name here. That is what we do. And it's quite normal. Please enter your name. And there is a box under that. On the other hand, an alternative, name of the applicant must be entered below. Do you think it is good? It is not good. It's not good because it's not directed voice in the language. Okay, so verbal sentences must be used so that the person who is reading should feel one-to-one interaction in terms of the language. It shouldn't be overdone, like send message to 4141 and win the elections. Kazı kazan, mesaj yolla, hemen katıl. Those kind of one-to-one interactions, like using slangs, are only preferable to some portion of the people, and I don't think that's also valid. So any kind of computer application should have some kind of politeness and in the language and proper language. You never say geliyor or I am gonna add the following items. Can you imagine an application um, talking like a slang language? No. Applications should always use a proper language and verbal sentences. It's good for and good interaction. So, um, as I said, we should always use proper language. Um, do you think we should give a break for 5 minutes?
It could be good.
Okay, let me break. Let me give a break.